Alright, this is for anybody who wants to understand the magic loop technique. Normally, when you knit a circular piece of knitting, you need to use a circular needle that is a little bit shorter than the length of your knitting. Your first needle would start at the beginning of your row, it would go around, you'd have your cord, it would keep going, and then your needle would finish there. So as you knit, your needles are never really exiting the knitting, you're just constantly moving in a circle. As you can see here, my needle is quite a bit longer than my knitting. The advantage is I only ever have to buy one really long needle per size, and I can use it for anything from socks to sweaters. So in this case, as you can see, I have my knitting split on the needles. I happen to have knitting that's 40 stitches across, so I have 20 stitches on the front and 20 stitches on the back. The needle goes in the knitting. This is the beginning of my round here. The end is left to make a very long loop, hence the name magic loop, and then it continues on the other side. So to knit a row, all I do is I pull this needle out. I make sure there's always some loop left here. You don't want it to go in, because then it's a pain in between rows. I pull the needle out, I gather the knitting on the front needle, and then I knit across the front. It's hard when you're doing this by yourself. I knit across the front as if I was knitting flat on two needles. I'll try to make this go fast. This is mainly just to be able to show you what you do at the end of the row. So, as I get to the end, you'll see that I'm kind of leaving a loop at this side. It happens naturally as you knit. The needle folds in on itself, which is why, if you look at the shape being made here, by the two ends, sometimes people call this butterfly knitting, because the two ends of the needle make a shape almost like butterfly wings. I'm going to keep finishing knitting across the first half of my stitches. So now I'm at the middle point of my round. So you can see I've got the back needle making a really long length, and the front needle is now knit on. So all you do is you grab and you pull that slack to the other side. Now you have a loop going the other way. You turn your work, because you always want to knit on the stitches that are in front of you. You put that front needle into your stitches. On top of I wasn't holding them so tightly. And you pull your back needle out and you knit. And you keep basically doing this over and over and over. And this is how you knit magic loop. So I'm knitting now on the second half of 20 stitches. And as soon as I get across these, I'll have finished working one row. You can do this with any length of needle that is significantly longer than the diameter of your knitting, because if it's too short and you only have an inch or two to use for your loop, it's going to keep wanting to pop into your knitting, and you're going to constantly be frustrated trying to pull it through. So now, as you can see, I've gotten to the other end, which is the beginning of my row. I'm going to pull the slack around, turn the work, and I'm ready to knit again. So basically, knitting magic loop is pretty much like knitting flat, turning, flat, turning, flat, turning, flat. You're always working on either one half or the other of your knitting, and you can use any length of needle you want that is longer than your knitting. I hope this was helpful.